Coming up on the county line, an attempted bank robbery in Volant. We have the report.
And we take a trip through Lawrence County to check out fall events.
And all your local sports updates are right here too.
We're live.
We're local.
The county line starts now. Good evening and welcome to the County Line. I'm Laurel Sprague.
And I'm Jeremiah Patterson. We start tonight in Volant. Police are still looking for information about an attempted bank robbery. An unknown woman entered the Northwest Savings Bank around noon on Monday. State police say she carried a duffel bag and ordered the teller to put money in that bag. When the bank advised the woman they were calling police, she fled the scene. Troopers ask anyone with information to contact them at 724-596-2211. The woman is about 5 feet tall, 150 pounds, brown hair, and approximately 25 to 30 years old.
Big news this week for the cash-stripped Lawrence County Courthouse. It will close over the Thanksgiving and Christmas weeks, and workers won't be paid during these holidays in order to save money. County Commissioner Dan Vogler says the courthouse will have to use nearly $1 million from the general fund for employees who normally get paid from state funding. That expected funding hasn't yet arrived because of the continuing state budget battle in Harrisburg. Commissioners say they have no choice but to make these cuts while avoid raising taxes.
A decrease this past week in the amount of Westminster students with flu-like symptoms, but so far this semester 21 students have been diagnosed with the H1N1 virus. Meanwhile, health center physicians are aware that the rapid flu test used for testing is not 100% accurate. Therefore, students with flu-like symptoms are encouraged to go home until they feel better. Dean of Student Affairs Neil Edmond explains more about the college's plan to handle this year's flu season.
But if we do have a verification or not, we will send them back to the room, preferably home if they can. But if we have to send them back to the room, they'll wear a face mask. We give them sanitizers. We have a buddy system with the roommates to bring food back and forth to them. If they have to go to a common area bathroom, then we have custodial services as well as students help sanitize those areas, within reason. So a lot of precautions. We're playing it safe. We're playing it very conservatively. We're doing a lot of education, a lot of outreach using email, the website, attachments to URLs where they can get to the CDC and the health department. And that's really our best weapon is information.
Living Treasures Wild Animal Park has 2 new furry additions to their zoo family. A pair of Barbary lion cubs named Leo and Lily are making their public appearance this month at the zoo. The cubs were born on September 23rd and will only be at the zoo for 2 to 3 months before being transferred to another park. The cubs are currently receiving around-the-clock care and are monitored closely by park staff and veterinarians.
It's the beginning of a busy season at Apple Castle in Lawrence County. From peaches and red raspberries to blueberries and sweet corn, Apple Castle grows it all. But they're best known for their apples, of course. Owner Lyle Johnson was able to recently share some of his orchard tips with us. Take a look.
Grab an apple and just yank it off because it pulls the stem out or breaks the spurs. Next year's apple is right here on that spur, so you try not to break that spur off. So what you try to do is to just roll the apple and it comes off right at the top of the stem there. So put your right arm through there, your left arm through there. We grow peaches, nectarines, red raspberries, blueberries. I grow a lot of sweet corn in the summertime. Just trying to keep the orchard and the apples in top shape so that this time of year when we pick them, why they're nice, large, juicy, flavorful apples.
From September to October, we're thinking about fall.
In a few minutes, we'll take you to a pumpkin auction and corn maze.
Stay tuned. More County Line is on the way.
Each year trespassing at mines and quarries. I'm Kathleen McGinty, Secretary of Environmental Protection. Riding old mine sites and diving in abandoned quarries may look like fun, but those joyrides are suicide missions, and that diving is about dying. Emergency responders risk their lives on dangerous search and rescue missions. Mines and quarries are not playgrounds. They can kill you. Stay out and stay alive.
The pumpkin harvest continues to roll in from around Lawrence and Mercer counties, and many local Amish growers take their pumpkins to the New Wilmington Produce Auction. There you can find buyers from as far away as North Carolina bidding on fresh from the field pumpkins, gourds, corn stalks, and other produce. Here's a closer look from our reporters.
Yep. 275. My way. 275. 275. 275. Now 3. 3 to 40. 3 to quarter. 3 to 3 and a half. 3 to quarter. 350 to 350. So to 3 to quarter. 1482.
I love to come here and see all the pumpkins. It's great. It's a great fall thing.
And 5 bucks.
On a typical day, we'll have anywhere from 30 to 100 buyers standing here, and that's grocery stores, individual home buyers, and roadside stands, things like that.
15 to buy, 15 to 15 cents, 20,
more than good deals, I got good quality, and that's what I'm looking for. These guys do one heck of a job of grading their merchandise, and so to some degree the price isn't important, but the prices aren't bad. We sell them by the pound. 29 cents a pound. One that's $3 here, we'll probably get 5 or 5.5 for at the store.
I bought all them corn stalks. I bought all the stalks and a load of pumpkins over here. Real good stuff. Definitely. Look at the pumpkins I got on that truck right there. You know, good stuff.
I'd say our main buyers would be roadside farmers markets or grocery stores. And the most thing that we need, as the auction here, we need more growers. Okay? Anybody can grow, it doesn't have to be Amish. Anybody can grow.
4, 5, yeah. 5, 6.
Somebody will buy it today. Maybe you can see who buys it if you stick around long enough.
20, yeah. Now 5, 25, 20, 25, 25, 30, 30, 30, 30, 25 cents, 1302.
Area residents looking for some weekend fall fun should consider heading over to the Cool Springs Corn Maze and Farm Market, owned and operated by the McCullough family. The maze promises acres of fun. Reporter Scott Lawrence stopped by the giant labyrinth to see what people can expect from this 10-acre corn maze.
5 years ago, the McCullough family decided to try something new with their family farm, so they turned it into a giant corn maze. Operating from their farm in Mercer, the McCulloughs have made their 10-acre corn maze an area staple of the fall season. Local residents can either choose between walking the maze or the plank with this year's swashbuckling theme. Shaped as a massive pirate ship, the corn maze can provide anywhere from a half hour to an hour of fun tossed in with a little frustration. Co-owner John McCullough says the maze serves as a way to introduce local residents to the family farm.
Lived on a farm all our lives, my brother and I, and fall's always kind of been my favorite time of year. I thought this would be something that we could do to let people know a little bit more about our farm.
Planning a corn maze is no easy task. The McCulloughs say they originally used GPS navigation to plant their maze, but now have turned to a graphing system where there's little chance for a mistake in planting their corn maze.
Just draw a picture of what we want the maze to look like on graph paper, and we mark corn out with spray paint, and then we string trim off the paths.
The maze and farm market act as a crossroads between family fun and agriculture. In addition to the maze, Cool Springs Farm Market offers hay rides, a hay maze for kids, and a newly created pedal tractor racetrack. Reporting from Cool Springs Maze, I'm Scott Lawrence for the County Line.
The corn maze is open every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday through Halloween weekend. For more information, including hours of operation, you can head to the Maze's website at coolspringmaze.com.
Westminster College's annual homecoming festivities are next weekend. The TV Land themed weekend kicks off Friday with an afternoon tour of campus for alumni, followed by a dinner reception. Saturday's highly anticipated parade starts at 10:30 and will march down South Market Street. And the football team takes on the Waynesburg Yellow Jackets at 1:30. Presentation of the homecoming court will be at halftime. Homecoming-related updates can be found on westminster.edu.
Stay tuned. A special county close-up is next. We'll hear from a local man who's been honored in a big way.
Following that, we have all the local sports highlights. Moore County Line is up next.
Smoke before you give it a try. Don't play with matches, don't play with fire. 'Cause there's nothing very nice on a holy spot. So the gorgeous force is what you decide. Don't play with matches, don't play with fire. Only you can prevent forest fires. Fire!
For Bob Bledgy, coaching was more than just a job. Bledgy served at Neshannock High School for more than 2 decades as both a coach and a teacher.
On this week's County Close-Up, Ryan Hitchcock sits down with Coach Bledgy to discuss some of his own inspirations as well as his outstanding coaching career.
Hello, I'm Ryan Hitchcock, and this week on the County Close-Up, I'm sitting next to Bob Bledgy, who's not only has been a teacher of Neshannock High School, but a football coach, a track coach, and an athletic director, and you're also the chairman of the WPIAL. Is that correct?
Track committee, yes.
Track committee, yes. Now, for all those things, Bob, how did it begin? Like, how did you become involved with sports?
Well, I was really, since I was probably 5 years old. My cousins and my uncle, who was only 3 years older than I, we started way back probably in the early 1940s. Baseball, football, basketball, and it just grew on me. And from the time I was probably 10 years old, I wanted to be a coach. And it happened.
Now, recently, the Neshannock High School dedicated their football field to you. I've heard from many people that you're a very humble guy and you don't like to put yourself up on a pedestal. How did that moment feel for you, standing on the field when they dedicated it to you?
It's very humbling to see all your former, well, not all your former players, but a lot of your former players and assistant coaches and rival coaches, actually, and your family. It is very humbling, but it was also a very proud moment, I know, for them as well as I.
Now, out of all the sports that you've played and taught, what was your favorite one to participate in?
Well, actually, my favorite sport was baseball. I don't know if I was the best in that, but it's a sport I enjoyed most. I enjoyed football, also basketball, and I also participated in track and field. But baseball probably was my most favorite sport.
Now, you were involved in football, like playing yourself when you were younger, and track and field. What advice do you have to give to people to become better at a sport like those?
It's always been my feeling that you have to want to. I know today a lot of times the athletes participate not because they want to, but because their parents want them to. And if they don't have a desire to excel, they should take up something else, maybe video games or something like that. But they would be wasting their time and the coach's time. But most of the good athletes that you have, they have a burning desire to succeed and to excel. That's what I found out in my 50 years connected with athletics.
And what did you do as a coach to help your players become better and more motivated towards the sport?
Well, you always have to show them the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. I was never one to rant and rave on the sidelines. Took that a lot from Harold Bury. Harold was very, I don't want to say docile, but he didn't scream and holler. He knew that the kids wanted to perform, and if he gave them the path and the tools to perform, they usually did. And that's what I tried to do. I patterned a lot of my coaching after Harold Bury, and moderate success.
Are there any other people that inspired you to coach, or like role models growing up as a kid that really made you just want to get out there and teach other people how to?
Well, yes, my high school coaches, Phil Breidenbaugh, Bill Klee, Gig Thomas, they were all at Newcastle, and they all were men who really were involved with youth. And I said, this is what I want to do. And Phil Breidenbaugh was probably my greatest role model.
And what motivated you to play all these sports and to do your best that you could do? Was there anything growing up that just really lit a spark?
Well, we didn't have cars back then. When I had a car when I was a senior, but that's all there was to do. We didn't have all the things that the youth today have to do, and it's sad in a way because a lot of them have great potential, and they don't follow through on it because they never try. I tried everything just like all the other kids my age back in the 40s and 50s.
Okay, and one final question: what do you miss the most from coaching?
That's a tough question. Probably the association with the athletes, with the kids. To see the looks on their faces after a victory, and also to see the looks on their faces after defeat. A lot of times people ask me, what was your record coaching? I said, I was 0, whatever, and they said, well, you won games, didn't you? I said, no. I said, coaches don't win games. The students and the athletes win games. The coaches lose the games. And just to see the athletes after they achieve what they are trying to achieve, that's the motive. That's the greatest thing to me in coaching.
Well, Bob, thank you very much for coming, and it's been a great honor to just sit here and talk with you, because you are a very humble guy, and it doesn't surprise me that they named the field after you. But thank you so much for being here.
Well, Ryan, it's in my pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, Moore County Line is coming up next.
Remember, if there's ever an emergency, we meet here at the bottom of the driveway.
And I'll get the emergency disaster kit out of the kitchen.
Once we're all together, then we'll decide what to do.
But what about Fido?
What about Fido? The Lawrence County Humane Society reminds you to include your pets in your disaster planning. Make sure that your pets have identification tags that include your phone number. To find out more about how to protect your pets in a disaster, contact the Lawrence County Humane Society.
Good evening, sports fans, and thanks for joining me for this week's broadcast of Tinytown Sports. I'm Matt Ogden. The Greyhounds shut out Oil City in the first half of last week's game, 14-0 going into halftime. The Oilers wouldn't score till the end of the fourth quarter, already trailing by 37 points. They would finish the game at 37-7 in favor of New Wilmington. New Wilmington would make that their 5th win of the season. They look to stay perfect in the conference as they host Hickory Hornets tomorrow night at home. However, the Hounds will have to do without one of their star senior players, Derek Burns. Burns will miss this week's homecoming game against the Hornets after throwing punches at an Oil City opposing player last week. PIAA officials ejected Burns from last week's game for unsportsmanlike conduct, and as stated in PIAA rules, that ejection carries over as a suspension for this week's game. Burns, a constant strain to contain for opposing coaches, not only has Wilmington looking over his shoulder, but also the University of Pittsburgh as well. He made a verbal commitment to the school to play football there, looking to follow in his older brother, Chris Burns' footsteps. Chris, a former Greyhound running back, is currently listed as a defensive back for the Panthers. Moving on to college, the Westminster Titans football team went on to their 4th game of their collegiate season this past Saturday as they hosted the Thomas More Saints. Titantown sports reporter Mike Hazlett recaps the game with highlights from Saturday afternoon.
We had a great tradition in Lawrence County, and with Gene Nicholson.
Drive led by quarterback Trevor Stillman. Stillman tricks everyone with a keeper to the outside. Stillman rushes for 51 yards on another keeper. Saints lead 6-0. 3 plays later, Stillman finds Jeff Brink for a 21-yard touchdown. Dustin Zinks makes this extra point. Titans down 13-0. Stillman manages to complete another touchdown pass in the second quarter. Unfortunately, Kevin France only managed to throw an interception to Zach Ottenred. The Saints up 27-0 late in the third quarter used Collier to punch in another touchdown, putting the Saints up 34-0. Trying to play catch-up at the beginning of the fourth, France throws to Gubish for the first Titan touchdown of the game. Saints 34, Titans 7. And the duo isn't done just yet. France goes to Gubish on an 18-yard pass. The Titans close in when France and Gubish meet yet again for a 10-yard pass and another Titan touchdown. Westminster is only down by 20. The Titans pick up a quick 2 when the Saints special team has a broken play on a punt, resulting in a safety. And just when it looks like a comeback, the Saints close out the Titans' hope when Eric Monk picks off Kevin France's pass. Monk nearly clears all of the Titans, but is brought down after 60 yards by Pasquinelli. The Titans fall to the Saints. Thomas More 34, Westminster 16. For Titantown Sports, I'm Mike Hazlett.
The Titans look to bounce back this Saturday when they travel to Thiel College. Kickoff is set for 1:30. You can catch all the action with Titan Radio's Dr. B and Adam Plyler at our sister station, Titan Radio, Digital 88.9 FM. Ron Galbraith has finally called it a career after stepping down from the women's head basketball coach position at Geneva College. Galbraith coached the men's Titan basketball team for a quarter of a century before moving on to coaching the women's basketball team at Geneva College. Galbraith told Titantown Sports some of his favorite memories and fellow coaches from Lawrence County area.
We had a great tradition in Lawrence County, and with Gene Nicholson and Joe Fusco, Dr. Burry, Buzz Riddle, just a lot of good people and a lot of good things happening. It was a very exciting time for the college and for me, and I can't say enough about it. Just so proud to be affiliated and be part of the Lawrence County.
In other Titan sports news, the women's cross-country team finished in a 3-way tie for 4th place, while the men's team finished 7th at the St. Vincent Invitational this past weekend. The men and the women's cross-country teams will be competing again this Saturday at the Slippery Rock Invitational. The Titan women's volleyball team went even in 2 matches against Bethany on Saturday, but lost to Geneva, finishing off the weekend, with 1 win and 2 losses. The girls are off all week and will be recharged for a tri-match with Grove City and Washington Jefferson this Saturday. Westminster College women's tennis team continues to run the table with their undefeated record of 8-0. The Titans beat St. Vincent last Saturday 8 matches to 1. The women look to keep up their flawless record at Waynesburg. Both the men and the women's soccer teams chalked up an L as they traveled up to the Empire State when they took on Fredonia State, losing 1-0 and 3-1 respectively. Both teams will look to return home with a W when they travel to Waynesburg Saturday afternoon to take on the Yellow Jackets. Moving on to this week's SAC Athlete of the Week. This week's Extraordinary Athletic Performance Award goes to Sarah Nee. She's a women's Titan soccer player.
She is a junior here at Westminster College and was also honored by the PAC as their Women's Soccer Offensive Player of the Week. Nee netted 5 goals on 11 shots and scored all 3 in the 3-0 win over Baldwin Wallace. Congratulations, Sarah. Moving on to professional sports. In Major League Baseball, the Pirates will try to avoid another 100-loss season as they take on the wild-card hopeful Chicago Cubs tonight. And the Cleveland Indians look to finish strong for their soon-to-be former manager as they play the Boston Red Sox. News from the NFL. The Pittsburgh Steelers look to stop their early season skid and return to 500 as they host last year's first-round matchup against LT, Phillip Rivers, and the San Diego Chargers this Sunday night at Heinz Field. And the Cleveland Browns will try to break their 3-game losing streak Sunday behind former starting quarterback Derek Anderson as they take on the red-hot Cincinnati Bengals Sunday afternoon. And that does it for this week's edition of Titantown Sports. Come back next week and get all your Titan sports and pro sports updates. I'm Matt Ogden. Have a good night, sports fans, but don't go anywhere. There's more County Line coming up right here on WCN.
If you're driving along the Leesburg Grove City Road in Mercer County, you've probably noticed the 2 giant domes which together make up the Pottery Dome. In this week's On the Road, reporter Ryan Hitchcock stopped by the workshop and gallery to take a look around this local business.
Behind me there's 2 large domes and we're actually on the road at the Pottery Dome. Let's go on inside and take a look. Well, at the Pottery Dome, I got a chance to not only see beautiful pieces of artwork, but I also got a chance to talk to owner and artist herself, Lois Hamilton. Lois showed me many pieces of pottery ranging from small to large, but the Pottery Dome wouldn't exist at all if it weren't for one man. And that man is Bob Eisenberg. Bob has been working here for nearly 15 years, and although it may look difficult for you and I, it's a piece of cake for Bob.
You just kind of have to get the basic steps down, the centering and opening and getting the feel of the clay, and it's just going it over and over again and messing it up and learning from your mistakes and coming back and trying it again.
The Pottery Dome has actually been around for 15 years, and owner Lois has been enjoying every minute of it.
So it's very light and it's very pleasant here. And with the big window over there, we get to see the weather and those. So it's been an enjoyable building in which to work.
Well, if you're ever in the Mercer area, be sure to check out the Pottery Dome, where you can not only find things for your home, such as cups and mugs, but other intricate pieces of artwork, such as this pot. For the County Line and On the Road, I'm Ryan Hitchcock.
That's the news for tonight's edition of the County Line.
Be sure to tune in next week for your local news and sports coverage.
In the meantime, log on to WCN247.com for continuous coverage of your campus and your community. Good night.
Good night.
Oh, here I am. Hey.